Galaga is often considered one of the greatest video games of all time, and a genuine classic from the golden age of arcade video games. Originally released in 1981 for the arcade, the NES release was named Galaga: Demons of Death and was released in 1988. Does this fixed shooter classic stand the test of time? Well, let's find out. The player assumes the role of a spacecraft only referred to as the fighter. You will fight through waves of an unknown alien species only referred to as the Galaga. These Galaga fight in squadrons and resemble insects on Earth. There are various types of Galaga, with the larger ones being called the boss Galaga. There isn't any story told besides this initial setup, and this is a little bit disappointing since you would think with a new name, Demons of Death, and it being released 7 years after its first conception, there might be new elements to the game, but sadly there isn't. In terms of graphics, it's rather lackluster. The background is just different colored pixels changing on the screen, and the character and enemy sprites are basic at best. Some effects like the blasts and tractor beams are nice, but pretty plain overall. To be honest, it's only a slight step up from the Atari 2600 graphics, and that's not a compliment. If I have to compliment one thing, I would say the background. Although simple, it was pretty cool the first time I saw it. The sound is hard to review because there is practically no music in this game. For the most part, it's just silence, and the only music comes up when you die or start a new stage. This is a huge letdown, and I'm not sure why they didn't put a little time into generating some music. The sounds of the missiles firing and the destruction of the enemies in your fighter are nice and give a good feedback to the player. The tractor beam sound is also a pretty nice touch. The controls are as simple as it gets. Move with the directional pad and shoot with A or B buttons. You are fixed in the vertical axis, so you're only able to move left and right on the screen. Only 2 bullets per fighter can be on screen at any time, so if you miss your target, you will have to wait for a bullet to exit the screen before firing again. The controls are butter smooth and react very well to the player's input, although it is a bit simple for my liking and I would have liked to see a bit more. The player's high score is found in the upper right hand corner, and lives and stage number are also found on the right hand side. Upon dying, the player can also see their total scores along with their hit ratios. The player must fight through an infinite number of stages against the Galaga, in which destroying everyone on screen will progress the stage forward. Each Galaga destroyed will earn points which contribute to the player's total score. Every third level will yield a challenge stage for the player to gain more points. At 30,000 points, and then every 70,000 points therefore after, the player will gain an additional life. It's a very simple game with not a lot going on in terms of gameplay. Attack the enemy Galaga and avoid getting hit from their missiles and suicide attacks. The stages are never randomized either, so you will be playing the same stages over and over again each time you die and restart. On one hand, you get better over time and progress further through the stages, but on the other hand, it does get old after a while, and I found myself getting bored after a few hours of playing. There really is only one strategy that I found while playing, and that has to do with the boss Galaga. If you let one of the bosses near the bottom of the screen, it will send out a tractor beam. If you enter the beam, the boss will take your ship. This seems like a bad thing at first glance, but you can get your ship back. Destroy the boss Galaga as it comes towards you and you will get your ship back, and it will also double your rate of fire. However, this can increase your surface area in which you can be attacked by, so there are some pros and cons to this strategy. Destroy the boss while it hangs at the top of the screen, or hit your ship and you will only receive bonus points, but your previous ship will be lost. For a game that came out in 1988, there is a lot to be desired in terms of gameplay, and I was rather disappointed overall, especially if you consider games like The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Contra, and Castlevania were already out by this time. I understand this is a classic, but they could have tried something different, and the two-player mode is just disappointing, since you just switch off between each player losing a life. It's really no different than just passing the controller to the next person in single-player game. I think for most people, this is a game that anyone can pick up and have fun with. The problem comes with long-term play. Over time, the game is boring and really uninteresting to play. I think people playing for 20 minutes or so will put a smile on their face, but that's all the time I think it's worth. I keep comparing this to Atari 2600 games, but it really is comparable in almost every single way, and I have played some Atari games that are much more fun than this. Current listings as of 2022 show a loose price average of $12.81, with a roughly 63-cent price increase per year. At almost $13, I really can't recommend this game for the NES. Sure, it's a classic, I get that, but there are a heck of a lot better games out there for you to spend your money on. If you could find this for a couple of bucks, sure, I guess, but I can't help but knock it for the time it came out on the NES. If this was an Atari game, it would be a must-buy for sure, but for an NES game, it's just too dated and lackluster, and simple for a solid recommendation. But let's remember it for being one of the best games of its time, an arcade masterclass, and a great milestone in video game history that we can all honor. Thank you for sticking around until the end. If you enjoy our content, subscribe for more and hit the bell for notifications. And if you liked the video, drop us a like. Till next time, this is The Thrift Gamer.